What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Robbie J Fox, and I'm back with a brand new video. This video was inspired off of a manga that I recently read. Now, before I jump into it, according to research, less people are having sex in comparison to 20, 30, 40 years ago. I can't think of a more depressing research topic. But ever since COVID and the rise of the internet, sexual activity between millennials and Gen Z has decreased significantly. The biggest contributor of this is the internet. I personally blame Twitter. Yeah, Twitter is bad. I don't know how many times and how many videos I've said it. Twitter is probably the death to a lot of people. Now, the ironic thing about all of this is that sexual intercourse is decreasing while sex appeal is increasing. With the internet and advertisements constantly throwing sex into your face, whether it be OnlyFans, hot tub streams, music, movies, game, or porn, sex is always being thrown at your face. So what happens when a country decides to make sexual activity of any kind illegal? Well, for one, I think that country is absolutely fucked. They're doomed, bruh. Well, there's an anime that vaguely touched on this topic called Shimonetta. The anime is a small example of what would happen if this law goes into pass. One of the characters actually loses her mind from the very first time she gets turned on, and then she puts liquid from her viscous innards into some cookies. Not gonna lie, I liked Anna, so I would probably eat one of them cookies.
It would be rude not to eat her pie, which I assume is not only hot, but also moist. Although, hopefully not flaky.
Before we jump into the video, let me just go ahead and say that 50% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button for me so I can continue making more videos like this. There is an actual manga that goes really far into the law of making sex illegal than the actual anime of Shimonetta. And Shimonetta is a comedy slapstick type anime, so it's mostly based on memes and just jokes. But what happens if we actually take this topic seriously? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I introduced to you a manga called Akai, Ringo. In the manga, Japan makes everything relating to sex illegal. 15 years later, a goody two-shoes teenage boy starts going through puberty and tries to avoid confronting what he is experiencing. In other words, a horny teenager has no idea what to do with his emotions since sexual education is now banned. Well, one of his friends encourages him to go to an underground orgy party where he is exposed to sex for the very first time. I found this incredibly ironic because back in the 1920s, there was an actual underground bar or tavern, I forget what they're actually called, but back when the alcohol was made illegal, you would go to these bars in order to get like moonshine and beer and just all types of alcohol that was banned within the United States. This is pretty much the exact same thing. It's an underground bar where you go to, well, you know. The first half of this manga is him pretty much fighting all of his urges while being surrounded by women who want to fuck him. And these women, it's a bunch of them. These women include his best friend's girlfriend, his main love interest, his teacher, and the idol he sees on TV. There's also a few other women who tries to get with him, but they have like less than one panel of screen time, so they're just pretty much irrelevant. Throughout the first half, the MC is struggling between following the law and following his desires. It doesn't help that his mother is also extremely judgmental of him and overly strict. Now, the manga does this really weird turn where the MC finally gets some, and I mean like he finally gets some, and he goes through one of the weirdest character developments I've ever seen in my entire life. Keep in mind, throughout the first half of this manga, he's a crybaby, like a legit depressing crybaby. But he's such a crybaby that it actually made me hate him throughout almost the entirety of the manga. But once he finally gets into that viscous innards, he changes character completely. Like, he turns into this giga ultra trad, and the story doesn't even go into how he transformed or any kind of character development. He just goes from one character to the next. No transformation. That is it. It is really, really weird. Now, the manga doesn't really show it, but apparently he starts fucking other women and becomes a bouncer in an orgy underground. Again, we aren't too sure because the manga doesn't really explain his transformation. So how does the lack of sex affect the characters within this manga? Because again, Japan has made it illegal. How does something that is very natural to do between human interaction become illegal? And how does that affect the psyche of many human beings? Well, not very good is what I can tell you. Since sex is now illegal, every character sees sex as a crime and therefore acts like criminals. Don't ask me how this makes sense, because it doesn't. And you'll see in a minute why a lot of this makes no sense. And since every character sees themselves as criminals, they are actually portrayed as horrible people. And let me just say, most of the characters within this manga are genuine pieces of shit. The dad, for example, works for the government to make sure people who break the law are arrested, while at the same time breaking the law and cheating on his wife. Not to mention that apparently in the past, he actually fucked his best friend's crush, which will become ironic in a few seconds. Then you have this chick here who ends up dating, seducing, and fucking the main character after she no longer finds her boyfriend appealing. So the MC ends up fucking his best friend's girlfriend, kind of like what the dad did in the past. Like father, like son. Then there's the teacher. Holy shit, I think she was the most messed up character within this manga. It's bad. The teacher chose her job to teach to legit, and I'm not making this up, to legit fuck teenagers.
Well, I was actually coming out here to pick up a cupcake and then go back home.
I thought that was the worst part of her character, but throughout the manga, she becomes so obsessed with sex that she starts mutilating and killing people who couldn't satisfy her. And it all started with this chick right here who encouraged everyone in the first place. I have no idea if this chick is supposed to be the antagonist or a hero, because at the end of the manga, she does kind of expose everyone and makes people question why sex is illegal in the first place. So she does turn things around, but it wasn't until after she starts ruining people's lives. The only good character within this manga is the main love interest, as she's the only one who is anchored throughout the entire story. So basically everybody starts fucking, and the mom and the best friend gets NTR'd by the father inside. I'm not gonna lie, that is some funny shit. However, I will admit the mom does get justice towards the end of the manga, where she gets herself her own little boy toy. So that all that's well ends well. Now let me just go ahead and say this manga is not great by any means. There's so many plot holes within this manga. There's a lot of things that aren't explained, and there's a lot of stuff that makes absolutely no fucking sense. For example, why is it that this chick was the only girl who questioned the law? Why is it that no adult questioned why sex was illegal? Everyone just kind of accepted it as a new law. No adult in the entire country questioned this at all until a horny teenager went on TV and exposed everyone. That I have no idea what to do with that information. No idea what to do. You mean to tell me one teenage idol went on TV and asked the question everyone should have been asking in the first place? Now keep in mind, sex became illegal because apparently they thought that it would reduce crime. And the opposite happened. Everyone started breaking the law. Now there's a lot to be desired and so many plot holes that are never explained. Even with how each character is portrayed, there's a lot that gets swept under the rug. This manga is not good by many people's standards. It's somewhat enjoyable, but by the end of the manga, you just feel kind of disappointed. One of the things that also bothered me is that there's one character who nearly assaults a girl. He drugs her and then almost R-words her. And let me just go ahead and say that by the law, they both would have gotten arrested. Keep in mind, sex is illegal. Doesn't matter who partakes in the activity, it's overall illegal. So if the sexual assault happens, it's not the person who commits the crime, but also the person the crime happens to. They would have also gotten arrested. Like, I don't know how to explain this. It's dumb because there's no line drawn between what is illegal and what isn't. It's just sex overall is illegal. Any sexual activity is illegal. So more crimes happen. More crimes happen, more people go to jail. The only good thing I can say about this manga is that the art is really detailed and really good. Like, each character's emotions is really played out. You can see the despair, desperation, and happiness in each panel. if I was like to rate this manga overall, I'm gonna be honest, I'd give it maybe a 5 out of 10, and that's me being somewhat generous because the story is bad. The story is just bad. It's just not great. But I will say, the funniest thing about this manga is the teacher. When you can kind of see her start off as like a somewhat, she's a pedophile. I mean, really, there's not, I shouldn't be praising her at all, but you can see her fall more and more within this manga. And you can kind of see the idol character. She starts to antagonize people more and more, seduce people, bring out the worst qualities in every single person. And the main character is just a wimp. He's just a wimp. That is the only thing I can say about him. Not a great story. It's also not a terrible story. It's just there's a lot of details that go on. There's a lot of details that are missing. There's a lot of questions that go unanswered, and there's a lot of holes within the story that aren't plugged in. Plugged in feels like a wrong thing to say about a manga full of sex. But anyway, the art definitely carried this manga really hard. The art is so good. But again, a 5 out of 10 is the best rating I can give it. The character development was terrible. I mean, it just was bad. But anyways, thanks for watching. I know this is a relatively short video compared to all my other videos, but you know, my name is Robert J. Fox, and fuck off.